This party started, and if any CTFers come and join us, then yay. My name is Lillian, and my talk today is your printer haunted and your laptop possessed? I made a note here, hey, this is not about hardware, because when I was practicing and giving the speech to my family members, they're like, hey, this is great. And I'm like, wow, you're such a lovely audience. They said, hey, great talk, but I thought you were going to be talking about hardware. I mean, you're talking about printers and laptops in your title, so I didn't want to bait and switch anybody, so feel free to flee if you really had your heart set on talking about printers today. Because I'm up here, I get to talk about myself a little bit, and I promise it goes into the topic of the talk today. I served for 12 years in the Air Force as a cyber warfare operator, and in fact, I'm currently in the process of getting out, so hire me. I have a degree in computer science from the Air Force Academy and a degree in international security, international relations from Harvard Extension, because I like to know how things come apart and come together. And I thought it was really interesting about like how governments fall apart. So that's why I have that degree. All right, professionally started my career in 2016, led a small threat emulation team for the Air Force, where it was our job to use Chinese and Russians tactics, techniques, and procedures, TTPs, to break into Air Force enclaves before our enemies could, hopefully, fingers crossed. I was also able to work with defenders in that role to operations test their intrusion detection and prevention systems, their firewalls, make sure, okay, I'm gonna do a thing, can you see me? They didn't really necessarily want us poking around, so as much as it was a test of technical skills, also a people skills endeavor, as I tried to convince the commander, like, you want me to break into your networks, I promise it's going to make you better. Certified to perform cyber vulnerability assessment hunt and discovery counter cyber with the United States Air Force, just Air Force words to say I got to do red team things in the name of blue team, which was quite a lot of fun. Worked in that unit, worked in the cyber tasking unit, got to help write threat emulation reports and incident response plans, and then I went to Massachusetts and went to a unit called Kessel Run, if you've heard it. Our tagline used to be building software the warfighter loves, and I got to start their red team. Did that for a few years, deployed in 2021, where that lovely picture of me in a cool helmet is from, where I supported NATO's non-combatant evacuation out of Afghanistan and ran the J6, which is the Command, Control, Communications, and Cyber Directorate for a 2-star staff, because the colonel that was supposed to run it was needed on a 4-star staff. So I got that honor, and despite being constantly outranked and outnumbered by the Marines and Army, ended that deployment pretty well with a letter of recommendation. And when I got home, I needed to recover mentally and physically and spiritually. So I started PMing for Kessel Run and took on the role of helping out their application platform. So all of that, I'm sorry, my last paragraph here in my notes. 2023, I had brain surgery, and then while healing, picked up a different PM role for the critical applications and helped out with platform security and incident response. So I just want to give you guys a quick background on who I am and why I'm saying the things that I will be today. So got a background in cybersecurity, professional misbehaving, and just generally getting people to do things that they don't particularly want to do has been kind of the name of the game for me for the last 12 years. I said this wasn't going to be technical, and it's not. Although I am the leading printer technician for the Secretary of the State of West Virginia. You can see Dad's inauguration up there behind those pretty flags. So that's a notch in the belt. Which, by the way, I hear they're hiring for a cybersecurity role. So if anybody's looking for a job, check them out. The talk officially itself. Anybody ever buy a planner and really hope that it's going to solve your life, solve the disorganization? Yeah.
Every year I have
Yeah. I feel like I start to actually use them a little bit more every year. This one has made it to October. No, it's gone. Yeah. Yeah, so I sort of saw founders and business owners and organizations doing that as I sort of got the opportunity to tour around the state this summer and talk to a bunch of business owners, partly as I tried to find myself a job, but also just networking and learning like what is the landscape of tech and cyber in West Virginia. And the thing that I saw a lot was like, yes, we got to upgrade our computers. We got to use our security software and technology and hardware. But I heard a lot of the problems that folks were having were just really basic problems. It was stuff like Wi-Fi not getting to everywhere in their building, and like issues with their phones, and their laptops not working, and their printers not working. And I saw the pattern of, hey, these basic problems are contributing to actually like real security vulnerabilities and like leaving giant holes open for things that we would generally call like low-hanging fruit. So kind of my argument here today is that we as cybersecurity professionals, by and large, should not be advising leadership to try to buy themselves out of danger by buying a new product or a new service, but we should make sure that our processes we use are so simple and so convenient and so reliable that employees don't need to circumvent them. In order to do that, us as cybersecurity professionals, we need to get to know the people around us in the workplace. So if you had a printer, you've had problems with a printer, right? And as a technical person, you probably have a subconscious framework you use to debug that problem. Is it input sources? Is it the trays? Is it a networking issue? But the folks that don't have our shared sort of technical understanding approach these problems with even more mystification and confusion and frustration than even we do. And I know I've maybe wanted to sacrifice a small chicken to a printer. Hopefully the blood wouldn't make it work. Yeah. And I've heard my laptop is possessed by more than one front office staff who's trying to explain to me what is happening with their computer. But despite them maybe not having that same technical background that we do, I have heard, or I've seen that front office staff and administrative staff seem to have the uncanny knack for finding ways to circumvent business and security practices because they have to. They have to get shit done, and so they make it work, even though it just would make our skin crawl to maybe know the exact method of what it is that folks are doing. I want to share with you guys that I was recently at a doctor's office and I needed to submit some PDFs to a patient profile. Upload failed, right? I offered to email the files got stripped. And they helpfully suggested that if you send us the link, we can break the link, we can reassemble the link once it gets to us, access the files. They knew if it was Adobe, they'd be able to access the link, grab the files and download them, and then upload to the patient profile for me. Sure, there were probably others, like web security and things that were in there, but it was circumventing the initial file upload processes that were in place to make sure that people aren't uploading sketchy PDFs. So very helpful. They found a way to continue doing their job when this process has clearly and repeatedly failed for them. Great news, security or the front office staff is a gold mine of information on how to evade security processes and ways to improve security without spending a dime. But this information doesn't come for free, and you will probably become the most hated person in the office if you go mine them for information, take away all their get-arounds, and then leave and go hide in your security cave. So when I was on a threat emulation mission in the Air Force, I showed up to a maintenance squadron, that's the ones that fix the airplanes, and I said, hey, I'm from Comm Squadron. And they said, oh my goodness, are you here to make our computers start faster? Sure. So they showed me in, and I sat down, and I was there to definitely install a keylogger and steal some information from them, which I did, but they were so excited about it that I couldn't help but use the admin creds that I'd already stolen previously in the mission to clear off profiles for them and make their computers start faster. They were thrilled and showed me around to the rest of the office, including like some servers in our closet. We don't know what they do. Thank you. So helpful. Yeah. So this also works for your own team. Obviously, don't hack your own stuff, but go show up to the front office. Ask them what they need help with, what doesn't work for them, help them utilize the technology that your business already owns. And when I showed an interest in the problems that plagued my clients, for lack of a better term, in the Air Force, They shared with me the problems they faced and the ways they got around it. I tend to think of it using Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and of course, every framework is broken, they're all terrible, but it's a great way to organize thoughts. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for me, physical. Can I help somebody make their desk more ergonomic? Can I adjust their lighting on their monitors and their computer screen so that they're not straining their eyes? Which, is this my job? No. Is it your job? No. But you may be able to help people do these things and perform these tasks just because you're a techie and you've spent too many hours researching keyboards on the internet. So just things that we know a little bit easier that can help other folks out. Safety. Are you communicating the impacts to operations clearly so that they feel they have a stable work environment? So not updating software when they're trying to do something important. Social could be things like, am I fostering connection? Am I making sure the asynchronous or the collaborative remote tools work? Things like Teams, Zoom, the chat, all the things that allow people to do the work when they're not sitting face-to-face to each other. And again, not my job. I've heard that before, but during COVID, I did a bunch of one-pagers for my unit, and that was incredibly useful, I found, for my coworkers who maybe hadn't used video conferencing software in a while. Just little things like, hey, guys, sit in front of a window so that the light is hitting you and you don't look like you're in a cave, and feel free to upgrade your mic, and little tips and tricks that I'd throw into one page. I had it all templated out. We've been talking a lot about AI. Sure, you could use AI to template it or use Canva to template it, and then you've got something really handy dandy and helpful that you can send out to coworkers. Esteem. Acknowledging individual successes and offering constructive feedback. And then for self-actualization, I try to think about how I can help other folks in my office achieve their potential, and making sure that they can help themselves, as well as allowing them to contribute to any designs that impact them, especially, so that I'm not having my engineers make decisions about things that are going to impact other teams without talking to them. It seems like common sense, but I don't know, important to collate and put together. So next slide here. When you build up the emotional currency in the bank of your relationship and show that you care about them and their problems, they will understand better when you have to take away their method of making it work, because they know you're going to do it in a manner that's going to be more secure, and they know you're not going to leave them high and dry. You're going to help them get it done. They're able to understand you and your motivations. What I found is that if you don't know people and they don't know you, it's really hard to know where your intentions lie. I've had many a contentious incident response event where app developers basically try to accuse engineers of being, malicious or trying to inhibit them getting their next app version out, and that's never the case. It's always an issue of priorities are different, and the communication is breaking down. So you gotta get to know people to know what their motivation is. Folks may even try to begin to bring issues to you when they see them. And my kind of side note here is make sure to congratulate folks when they find a problem, and being specific is best. I would much rather hear, hey, thanks for sticking with us on the outage call and spending some extra time taking care of me and the team, than hey, good job on that outage. It's a few more letters to type. Super easy to get a little extra specific on those compliments. And different folks need appreciation shown in different ways. Sometimes that's a verbal congratulation, and sometimes that's a written note or a shout out in the team meeting. I've definitely made the mistake of thinking of I'm just a coworker. What does my saying to them mean anything? I feel just as awkward. I don't want to say anything. What if I get their name wrong? People I've known for 5 years. Oh no, but what if I say the wrong name? But it is so impactful. I know when people say things to me, it makes my day. So just know that you can have that same awesome impact on somebody else. So I know sometimes especially when somebody's very slow at typing, I'm just dying inside and going, oh my gosh, let me fix it, let me type it, let me hands on. But I've found that when you show them how they can fix it or help them, kind of explain how you go about your debugging process, going back to Maslow's hierarchy, it kind of kicks into that self-actualization self-actualization part of the pyramid, where they feel that they can solve the problems themselves. It also wastes less of your time because they can help themselves. They don't need you to come take care of every small little ticket. So if done right, this is a win-win situation. You can save your organization money. Great bullets for year-end reports. You can help your team utilize the technology that you've already paid for, and you can keep your organization more secure. Love it. You can create deeper connections across the office and more thorough communication lines. However, as people that love to fix things, it's important to note that sometimes these conversations lead to things that don't need fixed. You might need to identify when a conversation is about how somebody feels versus when it's a conversation about what role each person has, versus when it is actually a conversation about something that legitimately needs to get done, needs a ticket. And so I've got my happy ghost here. There are 3 different types of conversations. Usually conversations fall into practical, emotional, or social. So I know I've been trying to pay attention lately and making sure that I'm not trying to fix a problem when really somebody's saying, I don't know what my role is in this project. I feel like I don't know where my place is, which is a social conversation, or really, hey, how do we feel about this new change at work? Very much an emotional conversation, and not something that I need to go make an Excel spreadsheet for. I've definitely wasted time making really cool Excel spreadsheets that nobody needed because I wasn't paying attention to what sort of conversation I was participating in. Yeah, we're West Virginians. Like Josh said earlier today, we have to do a lot with a little. We have to be technically minded, but we also have to have great people skills. If you're a computer science extrovert, aka you look at the other person's shoes instead of your own, that's okay. I've approached these skills in the same manner I approach learning any coding language. I read about it, try it out, fail, throw a print statement in there, try again. So I encourage you and myself, a good reminder for myself, to always study people because it makes you a better engineer, even if you're not a manager. Wanted to drop in, oh, no, you can't read them at all, cool. What's the word I'm looking for? Can you? Okay, I'm just blind because I can't read them at all. I wanted to drop some books that I've been reading this summer. Oh yeah, it's on the page. Duh. Hey, it's on the page that I gave you. So some people have magical eyes, apparently. I haven't even finished reading all of this book. This has been a game changer for me. As a person who sometimes feels like a lizard dressed in a person skin, I feel that I have to study communication interactions a lot harder to be able to understand them, to be able to utilize them correctly. Super communicators, total game changer, love it. The other one is Most Powerful Sentence of All Time. That is a fable about condensing complex topics and information and getting it into one powerful sentence, which obviously didn't use for this presentation. And also the other one I have there is Never Eat Alone. It is definitely a communicating and connecting book. Very much about networking, although that can be like a really dirty word. It is about how networking, if done right, is mutually beneficial, reciprocal, and given freely, showing and connecting people across your network. Powerful for them and also powerful in the way it changes your relationship with other folks. Okay, yeah, because repetition is how we learn. I am advocating for getting to know your coworkers' work. What do they do? But process is always a little bit finicky because this is how we can improve security for our businesses and organizations without spending unnecessarily. And that was so speedy. Thank you. This is a QR code to my LinkedIn, or not LinkedIn, my Instagram, Pinky Promise, nothing sketchy. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. I think I also have links on my Instagram for LinkedIn, Facebook, X, GitHub. Just don't follow me in person because that's weird. All right, since we have a lot of extra time, feel free to run or ask also questions. Yay, questions. What's up?
So you said right now your current role, and I say this because I'm a project manager,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of what you talked about is stuff that I can get on a soapbox about, and you can never get me off again.
I saw the nodding. I was like, yes, yes, she's in it.
you're handling the people side of change.
Can you remind me, OCM?
Organizational change management.
Okay,
So
yep.
when you do project management, it's more like the technical side of the management, where OCM is more like the people side of the change, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you know, like, just thinking about setting expectations so that people know ahead of time how something is going to impact them. I
Yeah.
wonder if you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you've introduced that great, is that if there is going to be a disruption, you absolutely cannot get away from letting people know ahead of time so that they can know, so that they expect the issue and are able to either compensate themselves or get access to help to compensate for whatever the outage is going to be. Yeah, incredibly important.
And I'm wondering, like, if you had any tips or tricks, like that, like you talked about talking to the front office staff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, have you been in a situation where once the thing has occurred, once you've made the change that impacts them,
Mm-hmm.
is there still that open line of communication as they go through their emotional trauma of what
Yeah,
the
dealing with it.
has done to them, right?
Yeah, and oftentimes, especially when you hit that kind of incident response land of like, okay, we told you this change is going to happen, you still weren't prepared for it, and like, oh my gosh, now we're freaking out because you're saying there's an outage. There's certainly a lot of like feelings management that you have to do, and sometimes I've found that happens in the moment, like, hey, before we get off the call, like, let's address this. And sometimes it's very much a wait and like let the emotions simmer down, because nobody's at their best at a Friday at 4 p.m. when you're like, why was changes made today? It's a Friday, like, why are you updating things? So sometimes it's a step back, wait, and then come back to it like on a Monday and go, okay, what was that about? Because that was not cool. Like that, the way you showed up, the words you used, whatever, it really can kind of degrade a team's confidence if they're if they have that customer support role and they're constantly getting hit by people who are upset. Yeah. Also, when you're talking about the change management process, it also reminded me concept in the super communicators of like preparing for a conversation and how important that it can be for you, so hey, this is what the objective is, this is what I'm trying to get out of this conversation. And maybe you never use that preparation at all, but like having this is what I'm trying to get out. If there's a lull in the conversation, this is what I'm going to bring up. This is kind of where I want to lead the conversation in this direction. Is great, because maybe you use it later, maybe you don't need to use it at all, or maybe you're both sitting there going, you're like, hey, I heard you on a vacation to Topsail Beach, how was that? And so you're like, oh, okay. So now I'm able to like make that connection because I've done a little bit of research and like have that prepped in my back pocket for whenever the nerves hit. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
But it's not about the topic.
That's fine.
Okay, and probably no one else will understand.
Yeah.
What was your training squad?
333? Yeah.
I was 320.
Okay. Yeah, that was in Mississippi, and there are so many cockroaches everywhere. Yeah. Also in Texas, they just crawl on cars. I was in Texas for a while, and I just remember like going out to the parking lot and just like, because here that means like you're like dirty, and Texas is just normal. Yeah. Did I see another hand over here? Yeah, what's up?
Talk about like coming up with solutions to problems, like to get around things. But
Mhm.
say you're like more on like the lower tier, you're trying to like talk to like a a head or like a higher up. How would you kind of articulate, like tactfully whether like you come up with a solution, like if there's a better way to do something, how would you kind of go about saying like, like we do it this way and it works, but it might not be the best way to do it.
Yeah, I have found in situations where I want to be like, hey, here's the solution, I need you to get on board with it. Generally, what has been most effective is, this is going to sound bad, getting them to think that it was their solution, or getting them to have ownership on the solution is probably the more politically correct way of saying it, of like, I want you to want to be a part of this. And sometimes when I'm dealing with colonels and like folks, it is truly just a game of like, giving them 3 options and being like, now which one do you think is the best answer? and getting them to like pick my solution. And then also sometimes I've been pleasantly surprised when I'm like, all right, let's collaborate, let's make a solution. And I'm like, oh, that is better than what I was planning on doing, when I got their input and when I got to hear what their concerns were going to be, and like I'm like, oh, okay, shit, we did make a better solution when we like built it together, even though I thought that like my engineers told me this is what the solution was going to be, and so I was very sure that like this was the only solution. Hopefully that was answered what you're going for. Okay. Yep.
I was just going to tack on to that and say I've had a lot of success saying, this is your business. I want to support your business, but you need to tell me how your business needs to function.
Yeah.
And that gives automatically gives them ownership. No matter what I tell them the solution is going to be, I'll say, okay, well then we can do this. They'll help you do that in the way that, so that we can, but it's like, if you tell them it's their business, that's like the first step of making them have ownership of it.
Yeah, and I think also getting them to agree on like what the objectives or the main mission is, like when you're doing the whole like risk management framework, or like mapping out what somebody's mission is and where input sources are coming in and out, and being able to say, okay, but no kidding, the most important thing you guys do is fly these missions, so it really doesn't matter if this maintenance laptop goes down because you guys can still fly without it, right? Where you're kind of doing that negotiation, and then you're able to remind them what they said the objective was, or what they said the top priority was, to kind of get back on board. I see some laughing. Was it the example? No, okay, no worries.
Ignore them too, absolutely.
Oh, sorry, I'm trying to cut it out because, like I said, hire me. I'm trying to not be a military person.
Don't apologize for that. No. That's not what we do here.
Okay,
You're good.
I'm not apologizing.
Exactly.
I am learning though, so I'm open to feedback if I'm using too many, military words. So.
You're doing great.
Oh shucks.
Find the money.
Hey, are we still recording? Can we send that to Brad?
Yeah.
I got the endorsement.
Tom Josh front and stuff. You like
Yeah.
Josh very nice.
Ignore that one too, honestly, while you're at it.
I wanted to throw out like another pitch for Harvard Extension. If you haven't heard of that program, it is a master's degree program you can do mostly remote. There are some in-person classes that I got to go take in Boston because that's where I was stationed. That's where Harvard's located. But it's a great program. You get to kind of earn your entry. So maybe if you didn't have great GPA in undergraduate program, it doesn't matter because you just do really well on your first 2 classes, and then you get acceptance if you've made it through the application process. So it's great. It's easy to learn. Instructors are world class, and it's, not all of the instructors are the mainline Harvard instructors, but I'd say most of them are. One of my instructors was the NATO intelligence head, something. I mean, just crazy cool people. So even if you want to go do something random, can't speak for their cybersecurity or comp sci, but international relations, international security was cool. Any other questions? Well, thanks, guys. This was lovely.
Great.